10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SEGA Live. I am Lee Craft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer. There in the center is the voice of SEGA from the Tower of Power, Mr. David Lancaster. And all the way over there on your screen is Jacob Freeman. You're going to be familiar with him from the Shift Points podcast. Gentlemen, great to have both of you right here to talk live about Southeast Gases Association drag racing.
Man, it's great to have. I appreciate you having me on here, man. I'm super pumped about it. I've been excited about it all day.
Can't wait to get ready for this 2025 season. I mean, we got some exciting things coming up. The series is just going to be bigger and better than ever. So I'm ready to get to it.
Absolutely. That's certainly going to be the case. Here in just a few moments, we'll talk with Leslie Horne, the owner of the Southeast Gases Association, and also defending reigning champion in the A-Gas category. And the whole purpose of SEGA Live will be through the season. We're going to come right back here and join in with the stars of those cars within SEGA and talk to them live, where you out there that are watching, you can dive in the comment section. We'll take your questions. You'll be able to interact with the racers of the Southeast Gases Association. And then from there, hey, they're going to be interacting with David. They're going to be interacting with Jacob. You're going to find these people beyond, I think, more than you ever have before 2025. So we know the stars of the state.
That's right, man. And this is super cool, and I'm really glad that you're working on doing this with the live and having these racers on here. We had a conversation about it at one point, man. I'm just really excited to tell these guys' story, guys and gals here at Southeast Gassers, because there's so many good ones and there's so many good people that are involved in this. And man, getting to talk to them live, you don't get any better than that.
Absolutely,
For
David.
myself being here,
go ahead, man.
I was going to say, from being here since 2017 and seeing the evolution of this racing association to being where it is now, I mean, the excitement that we're bringing this year with the more ways to access for our fans, the information that we can get out to them it's going to be great.
It is. And look, thanks to, I think of dragchamp.com, I think of Drag Illustrated, I think of competitionplus.com. They have been very generous and posted many of the press releases that have already gone out to, again, get the word out about Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. And then obviously Stephen Smith doing a great job with the social media feeds. And we're seeing a lot of content and reels, and also just putting out there more content about what's happening in the world of Southeast Gassers Association, whether that's through pictures, video, or in text, so people can stay up on it. And it's only going to ramp up as we dive into the 2025 season. I'm certainly excited about that first race at South Georgia Motorsports Park. Always looking forward to going back to Shadyside, the de facto home of SEGA. It does seem that everybody wants to earn that crown of that event. Interesting. I want to begin here, though, before we take it right to Leslie. On the schedule, Jacob, David, and David, you answer first. Which one stands out in a unique manner of what we've got?
In the early part of the season, or are you talking about the entire schedule as a whole?
Entire schedule.
For me, the biggest race of the year has got to be Gulfport, Mississippi. That racetrack down there is absolutely second to none. They brought in Kurt Johnson last year. They totally redid the racetrack. The fans are there. It's a great week with Cruising the Coast. We saw 3,500 fans show up out there for 2 days in a row. it's just a plethora of people everywhere, and fans.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I had a guy put a comment on a video that I was doing that I had put out today or earlier, and he said, I want to plan a vacation around a Southeast Gasser event. And I said, if you're going to plan a vacation, you've got to hit this Gulfport race down there in Mississippi. I said, you got cruising the coast. You can hang out there all week and then finish it up with SEGA. I said, what better can they ask for a vacation? You know? So I agree with you completely.
Yeah, the motto of the Gulfport racetrack is your racecation destination.
That's right.
And going into those pits, when you pull in there, you think you're at a resort camping facility. Yep. And the guys down there have already said they're going to put more hookups in, you know, for people to come camp, stay there for the weekend, whatever they want to make it as nice as possible. And being that it's in that later in our schedule, you're racing at sea level with carbureted, you know, motors. I don't remember how many times the world record got reset at Gulfport, Mississippi this past year.
Yeah, I think it changed hand like 3 different times in 3 different classes last year. And I completely agree with you on everything you said, but I have to make sure I have a different opinion here since you stole mine. I'm going to say I am super excited about this South Georgia race. I don't know. There's just something about it. It's been like since they announced they were going down here to South Georgia, it's going to be the first race of the year. I just told Dad and I told everybody that I talked to. I said, man, I'm just like stoked on this. Like these guys put on next level drag racing events at this racetrack. You got like lights out. You've got like all these different races. These guys know how to handle a racetrack. You know that thing's going to be prepped. It's early in the season. We're probably going to have really good air. It's going to be really good conditions. And I'm curious. I actually had it in my notes to ask you guys. I think there will be world records break at South Georgia in SEGA this year. I really do.
I think that may very well be the case, and we're going to hold right there on that discussion. We're going to pick it back up after the break here on SEGA Live. Thank you all for joining with us. Hit the like button, hit the share button wherever you are watching from. Thank you, Mike and Jacob, Doug, Mike Curtis. We see your questions. We will get to them. Adam, thank you all for watching. We're going to take a break, and this show in particular is brought to you by one of our fine sponsors, QuickTime Performance. Right after this visual word from QuickTime, we're going to bring on the champ and the owner, the bad chick, Mr. Leslie Horne. And we introduce you the champ and owner, Leslie Horne. Welcome.
Man, echoing a little bit. How is everybody?
Good, man.
Sideways. Can you see me if you turn me sideways? Look at
that. Boom. There we go.
Even better.
Full screen.
This never ceases to amaze me. I keep learning every day. How's everybody?
Man, doing great. Folks, we did lose David. David, he'll pop back in here when he can, and we'll certainly continue on in the conversation. Look, let's start 2025. First year owner was 2024. Do you regret it, Leslie?
Well, it depends on what day you ask me that. You know, some days yes, some days not. It's been good. It's been a lot of learning going along the way. It seems like every day there's a different challenge that we deal with, but you know, so far I still love it. I still love what we're doing. I love the fans, and you know, none of us getting no younger, and we're here to try to put on a good show. We try to support these local tracks, and we're just there for family. That's more important than any of it. But you know, there's also a race that goes on too. But it's at the end of the day, we want to put on a good show. We want the fans to be there. We want the fans to come and enjoy something.
Go ahead, Jacob.
I agree. I'm really glad to hear you say that one line that really stuck out to me there, Leslie, was we're there for family. Because if there's one sentence that wraps up SEGA, whether it's you're a racer or you're a fan, it's we're there for family. You see you see these families come in, they're bringing their kids. I'm sure maybe not at South Georgia, but my son's going to be coming to these races and stuff too. And dude, I'm just like, I'm stoked about it. I love to hear you guys really embrace that when in a world that I don't think kind of embraces that so much anymore. You guys get guys and gals, the girls and boys that come up to your cars, you let them sit in them, let them, crank them while they're there in the pits. And it just doesn't matter for a family like that.
Right. Yeah, it is. And it's like I said, Jake, it's when you go, I mean, we've only got so much time here. And so we got to do stuff that we enjoy. I enjoy it. And it's just the way that it brings the family and the fans to the local racetracks. Y'all don't understand how huge that is. I mean, that stuff we can take with us. We can't take none of this material stuff with us. So these memories that we make and to carry on legacy of drag racing, and a gasser drag racing from an era in the 60s, late 60s. I mean, that's the big part. I mean, yes, we do race, and yes, it does get competitive. But it is, when you walk through the gates of the Southeast Gassers, you don't have to worry about your son. You don't have to worry about your daughter. All that, when you pull through the gates, you're all equal, and we're just there to have a good time and to put on a good show. And that's what we're trying to do.
Love it.
Leslie, we've talked about the Southeast Gasser family and how it's grown over the years. And that's really something that you see. You see generations of families come in there. You'll see a grandfather with his son who's in his 30s, who's got their, his child there, that's maybe 10 years old or even younger than that. And they're walking through the pits hand in hand. And granddad's telling the grandson how he used to have that 66 Chevy too. And, they used to go around jumping Coke bottles and things of that nature. You really have a chance to blend those generations together and build memories there while you're walking through the pit. So, any of the people who might be listening to this, don't just show up right at time for the race to start. We're there early, and that gives a great time for fan interaction.
Exactly. Jake, you want to explain on that Coke bottle jumping? I think you had a little episode not too long ago on that, didn't you?
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but yeah, that's I might have a little character that I have. His name is Bill that is in my social medias, and Bill's hopped a few Coke bottles on Patton Avenue here in Asheville, North Carolina. That's for sure. So I love those old stories of guys telling that story or some version of it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That made me smile when he said that about the Coke bottle. I even looked up at you.
That was the first thing I thought of.
Leslie, look, you're no stranger to motorsports. You've got a diverse background in motorsports, actually. And, recently we had a video go viral, a reel that is you jamming the gears and out there in the window, almost in sync, just perfect in view, framed in your window as Christopher is in Happy Days and Ben Christopher's. And it's a spectacular shot of what you're having to do in the mechanism that is an A-Gas, Southeast Gassers Association car. Take us down the strip. How challenging are these machines to actually wheel?
Lee, they are very challenging. When you get to the water box, I've tried to this year, after about half season, after the deal that happened to me at Ohio where, I slept on the tree against Quayne. I gave too much away. I picked it up from that point on, and I don't let nothing kind of bother my focus from the time I get to the water box to the time I leave. I mean, I don't care if somebody's waving at me. I don't care what they're doing to me. I don't even hardly acknowledge them. And, but it's, you do your burnout, you pull your car up to probably about 6,000, do a fourth gear burnout, roll through, pull it back in reverse, back it up, pull it back up, stage it, make sure you're in first gear. Bumping in, I'm bad to set my line lock before I ever even turn on the first bulb. Sometimes I'm a little slow, but I'm trying to pick up the speed on it a little bit. I don't like to leave my fellows hanging out there, but I've got to where I've taken my time a little more than what I used to. I used to just try to rush and try to be the first one in, but now I don't. I just do my thing every time, and I'm not going to pay attention to what the person next to me is. Stott taught me a lesson on that this year, and I don't think that's going to happen again. So, but anyway, there is a lot to it. And then you dump the clutch, and that video of me and Ben, it's just the angle. That just goes to show you that sometimes you just get the perfect angle by accident, and just the angle, and it shows. I think when I went to third gear, I had to drive it ever so slightly, and I think I might have had to pull my hand off the shifter and go back to grab fourth. I can't really remember, but that video has really it's went viral. I mean, it's millions and millions and millions of views. So that's just a cool video. And Happy Day says he's going to pay me back with one next year, so we'll let him post his too. He's going to try to get me at the same angle so he can show him outrunning me. And he made us do it. He's got a bad power plant coming this year.
He's got that line bullet in there now, man.
Yeah,
that's going to be that's a game changer.
Ben has got a lot of experience in racing and in drag racing, pretty much so his whole life. I mean, I remember being back. I'm a little bit younger than Ben. I remember I didn't have a license when I'm watching them race off of the streets. So he used to have a black Corvette back in the day. They used to race. But anyway, he's gonna be tough. But there's going to be a lot of them tough in A-Gas, and I can speak for A-Gas because I'm in there. But there is going to be the bar is going to be set a little higher this year. And I'm going to be out there in my old wore-out junk, lease spring car. I got a street car. These guys bring the drag racing car. They just want to pick on me all the time. I don't know what's wrong with these boys want to do this to me. So
he's making excuses before the season even starts.
Maybe I can qualify this year. We'll see. Huh?
You're making excuses before the season even starts.
Yeah, maybe I can qualify this year. We'll see.
Maybe he can qualify.
Maybe. My
current
question
record holder in A-Gas, right?
Well, speaking of current record holder, so my question to Leslie for tonight is: are you going to let that record go to Wisconsin? Because there's a green car that's gunning for it this year, man. You going to let that happen?
Yeah. Do we have to call it the Northeast Gassers if that happens, or North Midwest Gassers?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's done a lot to his car. He's been a lot done to that car. I don't want to go into a whole lot of details, but there's been a lot of work done, and he should be there. He should, because I'm going to be proud of him if he does do it, but I can promise you, like y'all heard me say before, I ain't going to give it to him without a fight. So it's going to be cool when he goes out there and runs a 5.17 with a 9, and I go right out there behind him and run a 5.17 with an 8. That's what's going to be cool.
That will be.
That's an announcer's best dream right there.
True. Yeah. I love watching you guys go back and forth on social media, and so that's why I always bring that up. I love it.
If I tell y'all what though, if he ever outruns me or if he gets this record, boy, I'm in for it because I have sure rode him for 2 years. I don't think he'll ever shut up. He'll be on me every day. Anyway, we have a good time with Greg. Greg and Leah has just been a big asset to us. I mean, they've even helped me as far as like on my social media stuff. Not good enough yet. I still ain't done my YouTube that I'm supposed to do. I got a page up. I think I posted like one video a year or something. So I've got to get to work on that. But man, they just great people to be around. They're fun to be around. He gets emotional now. He'll fly a little hot for a minute sometimes, and it'll have to take him a little while to calm down. But he's doing good, and he is working hard. And so is about everybody. I'm telling you, this year in A-Gas is going to be a different ball game than it has been in the past. I really feel like it's going to be very, very tough. And I would not be surprised that when we go to the first race of the year at South Georgia Motorsports Park, that record does fall. And I wouldn't be surprised if it might not go to an O. I would be surprised. So y'all have to be there to see it. But I think it's going to be an epic battle down there. I'm excited about that track. We've never been to a facility of that caliber, of that size. Raul and his wife, the way they run that thing is top notch. It's some old rednecks go in there to a track like that. We feel like we lost, So we letting Raul handle what he does on his side, and I have all the confidence in him, and it's going to probably be our biggest race ever. Is what I'm hoping. It's a big facility, though, guys. Big facility. 200 or 300 acres, I think. It's huge. So,
yeah, South Georgia Motorsports Park is a premier facility. They are used to holding big events, and even the NHRA sees it as a place that they can hold a mini national event coming up later this year. So, SEGA, the premier gasser association in drag racing, going to such a facility, it does certainly make sense. And a lot of the line, I agree, records are going to fall, and we're going to have a spectacular show ahead of us.
I think so too, Lee.
So, Leslie,
being at that venue, a lot of our Florida fans have been, complaining that we don't get close enough to Florida. So here's an opportunity for those Florida fans to really travel up the interstate and get to South Georgia, because it's just right across the line in Valdosta, to really get to experience the Southeast Gassers full on in live in person.
Yeah, and that's something else. I don't want to step on nobody else, but that's something else too, David. We're trying this year. We the schedule when it come out. There was a lot of people. Oh, that's a lot. We're driving a lot. We're going to different places. We're also going to Jackson, Tennessee this year, which is a pretty good haul. But also there's other drivers that it's not such a haul on that comes a long ways. And and it looks like that Don, from what I can see, it looks like Don Bash and his crew, they are spending a lot of money. They're trying to make that facility a top notch. Now, I think it is set right now. I forgot what he said, 5,000 or so for people. They repaving the whole thing. They got the Johnson up there doing that. So I'm kind of excited to go there. I was a little hesitant about the drive to begin with, but I'm kind of excited to see what that brings and see if that would be a good place for us. So.
I have been amazed just my time traveling to McKinney Corp. And I'm like, oh, I can get Southeast Gassers Association content. There's a lot of racers. There's a lot of racers that are well beyond the Southeast. Quayne has oftentimes remarked that if he knew how popular it was going to be, Southeast might not have been the right name to go with. Thus, it's stuck, and it's certainly moving forward. But SEGA is, well, not just nationwide, but like we got Paul Breedlove, or Mark Olson. He says, watching from Australia, it is known worldwide. The SEGA brand is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Randy told me of multiple ones that would fly in from Britain, the UK, that would come to these events and stuff. And it, even now, even being involved in it in the way that I have been in the past couple years, it still amazes me. I mean, the racing is amazing and everything, but just the spread and what social media and YouTube does to get it out into the world, it's truly amazing.
Well, building on what you're talking about there with the international feel, I mean, Nigel Ellsmore and Juice Walton, they've been coming from probably since about 2018 on. Every year that they can from Australia, they'll take their vacation, or as they like to call it down under, their holiday, and they'll come out, visit many different venues, go up to Detroit to the Ford Museum, and go all over the country. But they try to do that in conjunction with 2 races, every year that they can get here. So we've had people from all over the globe come, and we're awfully glad to have those people here. But it is definitely an international field.
David, for you as the announcer of the Southeast Gassers Association, we talked earlier about Ben Christopher. He's got a new bullet going in, a line bullet going into his hot rod, and you've got Gene Fulton represented, Causey is represented, Par Racing Engines, One Way Technology, many other groups. This really has become, for SEGA, a battle of engine builders within this organization. What is it like for you watching SEGA and how SEGA has evolved in your time with it, where these power plants and the people behind the power plants have become figures in their own right? Well,
for me, in getting started, some of these motor builders didn't take it as seriously. Oh yeah, you want to run a 4-speed with a couple of Holly carburetors on there, or a couple of Edelbrocks, whatever you want to put on there. They made some motors, and now with the evolution of what we got going on, it's come down to just numbers on the dyno are just out of this world, and they're making horsepower that we never even dreamed of, and horsepower that's really scary. But these guys now have such a devoted commitment to it that they're having to take some of their production type stuff, their top dragsters, their Saturday night racers, their bracket people, and kind of put them on hold a little bit because there's such a demand for higher horsepower motors for the Southeast Gassers to compete. And to build on what Leslie said earlier, you see that first and foremost in A-gas. I mean, 135 miles an hour at an eighth mile is incredible. But we see in that parity go all the way down to B gas, C gas. And I can't wait to see the new influx of super stock and H gas coming this year, because we see a lot of these builds going on social media. We hear about them. The parity is going to be incredible as well, but the motor builders have seen that our Southeast Gasser racers are very serious. when they come to an event now and they see it, they're like, this is what you're talking about. I got to step my game up because I want my motor to be that world championship motor. And it's really become something of a war between these motor builders.
Yeah, and just to get politically correct, we're not running electric motors there, David. I had to take that jab at you. We all know,
just like the former owner.
Yeah, that's right. We all know that all of us with a little bit of red behind our collars, we all call them motors, and that's what they are. Everybody says got to change your motor. But anyway, it was funny. I wanted to pick on David about that because Quayne used to call all the time. They're not motors, guys. They're engines. There's engines. So anyway, it's funny. But we all do it. Every one of us on here, including Quayne, he even does it too. So that was pretty funny. I thought I'd bring that up. But going back to talking about these engines, David, the naturally aspirated engines and the names that y'all said, the people you're talking about, Jason Lyons has come in and done one for Ben this year, kind of as a favor, but then he's kind of got in there, and he has got a lot of knowledge. He is going to be a top dog. He is a top dog. You got Kazi, who would take the time to do these engines. Building a naturally aspirated engine to make power, it ain't like you just take a couple of heads and throw them on a block and put a turbo on it and go down the track. If it don't run fast enough, turn your turbo a little faster. It ain't like that. You have to spend. These engine builders spend mega time. They'll spend twice as long on a gasser engine as they will a bracket, probably 3 times as long as they do. And that's what a lot of the people don't understand. They think, well, I seen such and such had this, big block with a blower on it, and he went this number in this type of car. But it's not the same when you get down to the rules that we got where it's naturally aspirated and 23-degree heads and trying to get all the power out of it. And, and I'll go ahead and say it, most of the engines, I'd say most of them are over 2 horsepower per cubic inch on not a dialed up dyno, on a real true dyno, on a dyno that don't have nothing to hide, or not trying to sell nothing. So that would be safe to say that, and that's even in the big blocks, even in the bigger cubic inches, most of just about every one of those are about everybody's besides mine is over 2 horsepower per cubic inch. I'm the one that's behind the game, behind the ball a little bit.
Sure.
Well, what you're talking about with that is just an incredible number that has been put out there. And you being close to Gene Fulton, you know how Gene likes to get something and make it unique and make it his own. And he loves to spend the extra time on that because he's proud to say that Leslie Horne drives a car that's powered by him. Kenneth Phillips drives a car that's powered by him. Ted McKee, all these other people who have those motors have won championships in those motors. And he's very proud of that. And that time and commitment that he spends in the headroom or making sure everything's line board correctly, it really all is starting to come to fruition. You can't just throw something together and come to a Southeast Gasser event.
No, it's hard. And see, that's the things, too, that people don't understand, is, yes, Fulton engine is not cheap, but, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of an honor that he even works on them for us. He don't have to do these engines for us. He really don't. Y'all know that. He could have went home a long time ago. But he enjoys it, and he enjoys getting in there and tinkering, and he enjoys getting in there and spending, I shouldn't even tell this, spending 20 hours on an intake, just to try to find the little edge. He enjoys making sure all of the little things is lined up versus the big things, just throwing it together and going. He spends hours and hours and hours, and I know that the other guys do too. He's my engine builder, but I spend a lot of time down there with him. And to have people of that caliber, him, John Kazi, Parr, Lyons, all of them that would even take the time to fool with us is really an honor for me, for all of them. And I'm proud of every engine builder out there. I really am. I want all of them to come and build and learn and keep this sport going because, Gene's old. He was yesterday, I think he was 77 yesterday. Happy birthday, Gene.
But, in our chat comment here, Dustin Baker puts that Rare Morrison's coming. So there's another huge name, David Rare, awesome. Buddy Morrison. those guys, if they're going to enter this game, it's making waves out all the way to Texas and beyond. And like Lee mentioned before, worldwide. And so you're talking about some of the most experienced world championship drivers who are motor builders as well coming into this. Hall of Famers like Gene Fulton, Scott Duggins at Par Race Engines with multiple world championships across many different disciplines. It really is. And I'm partial because I've been with it a long time. But the Southeast Gassers is the cream of the crop for racing. You can look in our comments right here that, you know, some people are saying these Gassers have really spoiled me watching these cookie cutter Camaros in pro stock, pro modified, and some of these other things because they absolutely love it. I can't wait to smell burning rubber and racing gas on March the 22nd at South Georgia Motorsports Park.
Absolutely. And to bring it back, you know, with Dustin mentioning that Rare and Morse and all the other names, SEGA drag racing has really become the battleground for engine builders. That has gone by the wayside in NHRA Pro Stock drag racing. Nothing against NHRA Pro Stock, but it is locked into basically 2, maybe 3 engine manufacturers, motor builders. And you have now in SEGA all these people vying for those championship wins per event and the championship as a whole. And I think these engine builders, certainly when they have a winner from SEGA running one of their power plants, it is certainly something that they are able to put up on the pedestal because it is naturally aspirated, because there are rules on these engines. There is not this unlimited sense that you might find elsewhere. An engine builder, by their smarts and their ingenuity, they've got to create the horsepower to send these old cars down quicker and faster than they ever have. Leslie, I had an interesting comment on SEGA, and I think it's a good idea. If Mike Finnegan's car could make it to the line, because I've personally only seen it run once and then break, and then I covered the story in Hot Rod Drag Week of the blasphemy that he wasn't able to complete it. But like he runs like an 880 or 850 in the quarter mile, and someone was like, yeah, we need the chick magnet go against blasphemy, 55 against 55. He's got like a Hemi with blown, you know, supposedly going to just wax you with your little NA motor.
Out of date in the motor.
Yeah, could we see something like that? Could we see some blasphemy versus chick magnet?
Oh yeah, I would be open to whatever. Don't know if we could do it at a SEGA event, but you know what blasphemy does is a whole lot different than what we do. That he can drive on the street and drive it, I don't know, ever how many thousands of miles that they do that. You know, and I got a race car. You know, does he want to pull up beside me and run 1/8 of a mile in race trim? No, he don't. Do I want to pull up beside him and try to drive from racetrack to racetrack and try to run a quarter mile? No, I don't. So they're both got their place. I'd love to have him come out and get in a race car and one that would make it to the water box and past the water box and go down the strip, but. I do enjoy what he's doing, and like I say, I appreciate anybody that's a car enthusiast that gets out here and does this and keeps this sport alive. It don't have to be just because the way that Southeast Gassers does it. Don't mean that that's no better than the way that another group does it. That other group that's out there that's building gassers to what they want to do, they have a following just like we do. They have husbands, wives, grandmas, grandpas, fans in the stands, and they go and they have a good time at the races. They're supporting their local racetracks. They're supporting other racetracks, the concession stands, and like I say, it's building the memories. So, you know, just because we have rules, that's what our little box is. This is our box of rules. They got their box of rules the way they want to do it, and it's just a little different. You know, don't make us no greater, them no greater. You know, I think anybody that's trying to progress the drag racing, I'm all for it, and I'm all for this drag and drive stuff, and I'm thinking about trying to put me something together to run a 6-week car.
Yeah, with this Six Smokies event that's coming up here soon, I mean, I've seen a lot of SEGA guys that are on that list that are registered and they're going, you know, and I just think kind of what you said, this world of drag racing that we're in today, we're actually to be honest, we're spoiled that we live in the time that we do when it comes to drag racing. Some people might try and argue that, but with SEGA, with the drag and drive events like they were, the Street Outlaws guys, they had a magic formula there for a few years, and they probably still got something. I know they announced some changes this week, but we live in the best time of drag racing potentially ever, as far as what you could see technology wise, engine wise, power wise, numbers wise. It just doesn't get any better. It might not have the flair of like 70s pro stock, but man, just we are so spoiled. And I tell you, people argue and growl about stuff on the internet all the time, and I don't think we appreciate it enough.
Well, like I say, the drag and drive stuff, it's not really a drag race. It's actually just a big week of fun. You go, you run, you don't have nobody beside you. Takes out a little bit of danger there. You get a time slip and you go to the next one, and it's more, I know it's a big word for me, camaraderie, hanging out and, bench racing and having a good time and meeting other folks, folks from all over the world, and there's a ton of people that follows, Tom Bailey and all that stuff that he does. I mean, it's huge also. And like I say, I wish we could join them and do something every week. I wish all of us could get together. We could run, all 2,000 of us could run SEGA one weekend, next weekend, other 2,000 get another car and go back and race a sick event or whatever. But all of us has got lives and we have to work, so that's the only problem with that. And it takes money to do that. And all of us has got to have that. So that's the only part that's to fall back on.
Leslie, as owner of the Southeast Gassers Association 2025, what do you want to see? What is at the top of your list for SEGA?
You're talking about just for the organization, or what are you talking about? Yes. Well, I just want to see a good, safe year. I want us to have good turnouts. I want us to leave a great mark to every track that we go to. I want people to want us back. I want people to come to want to just can't wait to the next event. That would satisfy me more than anything. I'd love to have record races at each one of them. I'd love for Mother Nature to give us a little bit of a break this year because she wore us out last year. Other than that, man, I mean, just have a good time and everybody have a good time. Nobody get hurt. Everybody live happy, and that's the main thing.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Horne, gentlemen?
I have just one more, because I feel like this comment that you said earlier was kind of overlooked. And you said you believe that not only will the A-gas record be broken at South Georgia, you think that it's going to go to an O, which is crazy. And I was doing some really quick math. I'm pretty sure you run a 577 big block at 2 cubic inches. 477, excuse me. Okay, all right. So we're still north of 1,000 horsepower, basically, that we're stuffing into a straight axle gasser car, which is crazy. First off, second off, do you think it's possible for us to see a mythical 4-second pass in A-gas? Maybe not this year, but do you think it could happen?
The way things has progressed, if you'll go back and look each year with this a little bit faster, I don't know. If I knew how to do it, I'd already done it, to be honest with you. I don't know how much further with our limitations that we've got with the gasser rules, how high they set, the 4 speeds, the straight axle, the 10.5-inch tire, the non-slipper clutch type thing, or single disc clutch. I don't know how much faster we can get them. I do know that I really feel strongly that sometime this year that somebody will tickle O if it don't happen at the first one. I know my car will run just a little bit better than what's posted out there, so I know that it could be pretty close. And and like I said, is down on horsepower as I am and as under as rated as my car is, if I can do it, surely these other guys with these good cars, surely they can really come and put it on me out there. Is what I'm hoping for. I'm
glad this is recorded.
Right. I'm glad it's recorded.
We can use this as evidence later in the season.
Right.
Exactly. Right. We're talking about the man who won the last 5 races in a row, who set records and took home the championship. And he's sitting here needing some
a little better car.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you get lucky sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you luck runs for a long time. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to lay down for them. I want them to come and get me, and I'll be proud. And that's the other thing about me. If people don't believe this, don't understand it. If somebody pulls up beside me and outruns me, I am super proud of them. Especially if we leave side by side and they outrun me, I'm super proud of them. They all give me a hard time. You know, the Joker put that sticker on my car. You know, y'all seen the video I posted. That'd be the fastest Joker ever goes, that sticker right there. But, you know, I am proud of these boys and what they do, and I'm proud of all of them that put forth the effort to come and do this for us. So I'll have somebody else to race against. So being Christopher has somebody else to race against. Kenneth Phillips has somebody to race against. You know, Kenneth's been coming how long, David? God, 10, 12 years probably now.
Kenneth is one of the, if not made the first race, he was at least the third race of the year. Kenneth Phillips, a champion, 17-time winner in A-gas category. He's never raced anything but A-gas. He said, I'm going for the top, and he has stayed at the top. He started out with the little Chevy 2 Nova that's now the slingshot car driven by Todd Blackwell. But then he switched over to the 58 Corvette, the Silver Streak 2, and he ran a small block for a long, long time and making it very successful. So Kenneth has been around since the very beginning, and he probably has more laps down a racetrack than anybody still in Southeast Gassers. Well,
and Kenneth, you know, I know he's been A-gas the whole time, but I think he's been there so long before they even had A-gas, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on that, David, but I think he started out so far back before they even had the classes divided up.
Yes. Yes, it was so they were just doing the Chicago style.
Yeah, so he's been around a while, and he'll be back there. I mean, he's been on top, he's been on the bottom, he's been on top, he's been back and forth, and he'll be there. He is you never catch him hardly. One thing about him, I've never seen him not smiling. And I don't know that I want to see him not smiling, but I've never seen him where he's not smiling. So he's a good one. He really is. All of them are, man. I could talk. I mean, I'm just talking about A-gas because that's the one I run. But, man, there's so many great people in B-gas and C-gas. And, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and call all their names, but it's just – I mean, it makes me feel good to even be a part of it, you know. And I don't look at myself as no owner. I look at myself like everybody else. I'm a racer when I get there. I could care less what goes on behind the scenes. You know, I just want to go race. And I try to leave that up to Rocky and Randy and to handle all that, and David to do his announcing, and everybody just do their job. So let's go out there and don't create no headaches for me. I want to go race. I don't want to listen to nothing else.
Well, I must say, before you get off this broadcast today, to all of our fans out there, having you come in as the owner, you know, everybody was a little bit nervous about what would go on, and then everybody said, "Well, we're talking about Leslie here," and you truly, behind the scenes, and I know you don't want people to know everything that you do, you care for the racer. You want the association to do well, but you know if a racer's hurting or if they need something, you have helped provide it or find a way to do that because you are a racer at heart. And you have led this organization in 2024 with your heart. And as you said, you've hired personnel to let them run and do their job. I feel like they did it well. I feel like it'll continue, but you truly are one of the most genuine people that I've come across. If you say it, you do it. And that is a hard thing to find in 2025 in any walk of life. So any of our
David,
fans who need to know a little bit into you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but you're not getting no raise.
Okay. Yeah, I'm about to say, when are you sending the check?
No.
Like, when was this paid off?
I know where
it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I know where it's coming from, and I do appreciate that. But I do love the racers, and I do love them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the organization, but without the racers, ain't no organization. Without the employees, ain't no organization. You know, I do love the racers, and when they are hurt and when they are struggling, you know, it makes me feel bad if I'm able to get around and they can't. You know, it does bother me. You know, I can't do no more than I can do. But I really want my racers to be took care of. I don't never want nobody to think, well, it's all about the money. And I've heard that remark several times. It's not. We've got to have a certain amount so we can continue to go to the races, so we continue to even have somewhere to race. So, I mean, last year was a learning curve on a lot of things. So, you know, the scheduling at the end of the year for this first season, you know, there was a little bit of discussion on that. I probably should have looked at a few things a little differently on that. It's 100% my fault. So, but we're living and learning, and we're going to continue to try to do better. And I'm going to be there regardless. It's like somebody said something about couldn't make it. I said, I ain't got no choice. I got to be there. So, and if it gets to a point to where I need to step back and help more with the SEGA, that's the more important to me than going out there and winning a race, even though I really like to win races. So I would do what I have to do for the team. I promise you that. I'll take one for the team if it comes down to it, we have to.
Well, Boss Man, thank you for your time and coming on this first episode of SEGA Live on CompetitionPlus.com, the Southeast Gassers platform, and also the Monday Morning Racer platform. Thank you for your time, and can't wait to see you at the track.
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all for putting this on. I think this was pretty cool, Lee, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do this year, Lee, and you pushing everything forward on the social media, and Jake, and then we got Chris. We got a lot of people that's going to step in there this year. We're going to try to put on the best show that we can put on this year, better than we ever have. Yes, we'll probably have some hiccups along the way, but we got some big stuff coming, and Lee knows about it, and we're working on several things, and we're hoping for big things this year. So y'all just continue to come support us. Y'all continue to come and have a good time, and that's all I ask for. And I hope to see all of y'all soon. And thank y'all guys for all your time, David, Jake, and Lee. Thank you.
See you, Mr. Horne.
Georgia.
See you, buddy.
Well, folks, that was Leslie Horne, the 2024 AGAS champion and also the owner of the Southeast Gassers Association, a partner that makes so much of this possible in the Southeast Gassers Association is G-Force Racing Transmissions, and in particular, G-Force South with Roby Myrick. If you need a transmission, a manual transmission to do what these gassers are doing or beyond in the world of motorsports, for even the drifters love G-Force, you need to check out the people at G-Force to make sure when you get all the G's, it's going to be able to hold together. They have got what you need to have your high-performance application be successful, just like the Chick Magnet, the quickest and fastest gasser in the Southeast Gasser Association. I dare say the world with its combination. G-Force Racing Transmissions. Check them out, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back to the panel, and we'll dive in on that schedule. Love what you mentioned at the early part of the show, Jacob, that with South Georgia Motorsports Park, there is so much that we can expect. Now, David, I want to ask you, with that in mind, you can see content back in the past of the Southeast Gassers Association at places such as Rockingham, which is a great facility and has been made even more great recently with the new ownership. But this is different from what I understand, because this will actually be the biggest venue of a points earning event for SEGA. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. When we were at Rockingham, that was just a exhibition put along the side with the PDRA to showcase some of our cars. It was still a Chicago-style race back then, but this will be the biggest race that we've been to as a points race. The only one that comes close might be Darlington, South Carolina, that we went to for a couple of years.
We'll bring up the schedule at this moment. And sorry, David, we're going to, cover you up. No one gets to see your face on race weekend anyway, being the announcer. So this ought to feel right at home. But Adel, Georgia, South Georgia Motorsports Park, and it is going to be spectacular. I mean, this is the home of Lights Out. They hold NHRA divisionals. They've got the Peach State Showcase of Speed coming up with the NHRA. They're going to have Top Fuel and Nitro Funny Car. And now they're going to have the premier gasser drag racing in the world. That is SEGA on the grounds. Jacob, are you going to be able to make it?
I am going to be there. I booked the hotel a few weeks ago. I am absolutely stoked. Like I said earlier before we got here, there's just like an energy that I have this year that in 2024, Randy and I, we have our podcast where we recap the races after each SEGA event. We kind of go into the details and the things that he saw throughout the weekend. And I told him going into 2024, I said, man, there's just something about this year. It feels like it's going to be a big year. And it was. But for some reason now, leading into 2025, there's an energy even bigger than last year. There's so much more conversation about it. Like you're going to South Georgia, like you said, these events that these guys hold, they know what they're doing. They're making it more about the fan with this 2-day swap meet that they're going to have there with it as well. So, I mean, you're just bringing in all these different people. You've got all these different builders and drivers that are coming along and building these combinations. And what's great about it is that you're going to this massive venue the very first race of the year, and it's in late March. The weather's going to be great. Everyone's going to be just ready to be back to the racetrack. I'm dying to get back to the racetrack. I don't care. I'm lucky I get to go to a circle track race this weekend, but it's just something about that. It's just different at a SEGA event. I cannot wait to be back at the drag strip. And I told everyone that I talked to, I said, I don't know, unless something just absolutely falls apart, I will be at South Georgia because there's going to be something big happen there.
Certainly, there is going to be something big happen there. David, I know you're looking forward to being down there and calling the action at such a great facility, but talk to me about Shadyside Dragway, our second race of the 2025 season. I feel like that Shadyside is equivalent to the Lucas Oil Raceway Park, the U.S. Nationals type setting for SEGA. It's just home. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's very accurate, Lee. When we go there, we expect to see a lot of people there. Now, granted, the Southeast Gassers has a huge car count that live within 30 minutes of that area. Because let's face it, Quayne Stott's from Columbus, North Carolina. That's 15 minutes down the road from Shadyside. We do tons of testing there. All the cars go there to test. You know, even before we go to Valdosta and South Georgia Motorsports Park, they'll be at Shadyside. But there's something about the quaintness of being in that little valley there. You know, it makes it difficult to walk sometimes, but there's something about the quaintness of that valley put in there. And the Buff family does such a great job with preparing the track. They were the first crew that really donned all white crew shirts and crew pants when we came there to try to increase the mode and the mood there of a 60s style race. We have so many fans that make that a destination for them, and especially for our November race and it being the finals. It is something that it can only be experienced if you're there at Shadyside Dragway.
Well, we continue with the top three here, the first three of the 2025 season, and we're going back to Alabama. How long has it been since we've been in Alabama with the Southeast Gassers Association? And there are a lot of Alabamians that race in SEGA.
Yeah, there is. We've got, I think the last time we were there, we went to Huntsville, and that was, I want to say 25 will make 2 years ago when we raced at Huntsville. Before that, we raced at Lassiter Mountain for a few years there. Finally, that venue just became too small to put the amount of drivers, cars, and fans that were showing up for races. And that kind of necessitated us leaving Lassiter Mountain. But Holiday Raceway, just right down the road from Birmingham, Alabama, you know, you got guys like Todd Oden, our C-Gas world champion out of Birmingham, Alabama. You're going to have his 58 Delray there. You're going to have Ken Rainwater out of Kimberly, Alabama, the 2021 B-Gas world champion. 2021 B-Gas world champion in his Renegade. You'll also have Alan Lovelady in his Superstock car. Many different people from the state of Alabama. And there's more cars being built. John McLaughlin's building a car. He'll be in B-Gas trim. That's the old Quayne Stott Anglia from last year. He's going to put it in B-Gas trim and race it. And the fans in Alabama are absolutely rabid about the Southeast Gassers. So we expect to see a great turnout there. They're going to come see their favorite sons race, you know, in the Todd Odens, in the Ken Rainwaters. And MTO Motors and One Way Technologies being on board for sponsoring that race is going to be a great venue for us.
It is. And beyond, we've got the update in this. Mooresville is no longer on the list. There just are some issues there with the track, and we want to make sure give time and place for both association in SEGA and track to get things worked out. May very well in the future be back at Mooresville, but we're looking at a 10 race season at this point. We go back on old Rocky Top, Knoxville, which has 2 times of SEGA this year. The race there in Xenia, Ohio, Killcare is such a great facility. That old arch that you go under to come in just floods you with nostalgia, and it's a great place to race. Brainerd Motorsports Park, they had a great showing last year for the season opener. It's going to be warm there in North Georgia, though, in August. And then Jackson, Tennessee, we've mentioned it earlier, some major updates happening in Jackson to make it a premier place to race in Western Tennessee, and that is definitely needed.
It really is. That racetrack being only an hour short of getting to Memphis, Tennessee, gets us a chance to see our friends that might not make it over to Knoxville in the Eastern Tennessee area. We'll be in Western Tennessee grabbing those guys. We had some racers from out in that Memphis area that unfortunately for a few different reasons had to back out of Southeast Gassers, with some great friends, James and Dan Beard, who are from that Memphis area. Hope to catch up with them and have them at that race as well. They ran the Obsolete and the Obsolete 2 race car, if you remember those. And they've been wanting us to get out that way. So hopefully Jackson, Tennessee is going to have that new surface, and Don Baskin and his crew, promote the event so we can get those stands filled and put on a great race out there for them in Memphis.
And I know there was people that were slightly concerned about that being so far out west, but I'll tell you, man, it opens up a completely different set of people, and that's so important. I mean, you see comments coming in on this video, people from Canada, people from Australia. Well, guess what? There's people right here in the U.S. that don't live close enough. I mean, they can make the trek, they can fly in or whatever, but to be living close enough where you can drive in and see one of these events, it's going to open up a big part of the U.S. that you guys haven't been able to touch before.
It is. It's going to also help that crowd from the Killcare Raceway, the Ohio crowd. They were dying to have another race a little closer, than an 8-hour trip to Shadyside or something of that nature for them. So this gives them 2 events that they can attend, as well as the Killcare event. The Killcare Dragway event in Xenia, Ohio. Guys, we work with some incredible tracks and staffs. Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I don't want to point one out, but when you see a racetrack that has 2 races, there's a reason there. We have great turnouts. Knoxville, Tennessee. If you pin me down to one great facility, I would say my favorite to go to, as far as just a race and a facility to work with, is Knoxville, Tennessee. Wes Clapp and his people do an outstanding job up there. And last year, as I told you earlier in this broadcast, Gulfport, their staff blew me away as well. The professionalism they show. Well, we work with some great tracks and some great places, and we hope to get some of our fans to get back out to some of these places and see how great these racing facilities are, and our events as well on those facilities.
So many great facilities. It is a great lineup, and it really, I think, in many ways is dispersing SEGA in a fair and manageable way, because you do got to manage how far is a racer towing, how far is the fandom having to travel and be at. And for some of you out there, and I see the comments routinely on social media on the back end, for those of you, for example, London, Kentucky, great track. Maybe we're back there one day in that area. But if you're complaining that, hey, you're not coming to my racetrack no more, and therefore I don't want to see this action, really, come on. Are you that much of a fan? Step up the fandom, if you will, and head south just a bit down the road to Knoxville, Tennessee, and enjoy the racing action there. Get a motel room, make a vacation of it, a weekend type of thing, and enjoy some racing and still be a fan. And maybe we'll swing back by your way, because fans beyond, they need to get the opportunity to see Southeast Gassers Association drag racing every now and then. And maybe those places don't become homes like a Shadyside or a Knoxville, but from time to time, they get the nostalgia revival that is this SEGA drag racing that has no rival come in and put on the spectacular show that is SEGA drag racing. And you've got Beyond Jackson bringing the schedule back up. The racing is concluded with Knoxville, Gulfport, which cannot be missed. Such a great pairing with Cruising the Coast and the team there at Gulfport Dragway. Truly, it is your racecation destination. That's what I did last time. Megan and I, my wife, we stayed on the beach the next day and just enjoyed the time down there, and then close it at Shelby with the championship finals there at Shadyside. So again, another great year. And I can also echo, look, my home state, if you will, is South Carolina. I would love to see a Southeast Gassers Association event in South Carolina, and it has happened. I think there's room for Western North Carolina beyond the eastern side, or excuse me, the eastern side of North Carolina opposed to the western side. We got a lot in the west side of North Carolina, and there's great tracks out there. And I think Leslie Horne and many of the people involved in the Southeast Gassers Association drag racing, you're going to see it go to different places while maintaining home base. And I think that is a good thing for the fandom that is out there in SEGA.
It has to happen. It has to be that way.
I'm sorry, but just seeing one of our fans right here comment, Tony Serio, forgive me if I get your name wrong, Serio, he says, I make the 8.5 hour drive to the Shelby races, and it's been worth the trip. Best racing in the country. Guys, you know, one of the other associations says every ticket's a pit pass. Well, ours are too. But what you find at a Southeast Gasser event is that family that, you know, I dubbed it that years ago, and Quayne Stott, former owner of the Southeast Gasser, says, I don't know why you called it a family. And then about a week or two later, he comes back and says, I know why you called it a family now. Because when you get to that track and you see, like I said before, the grandfather, the grandson, the son, you know, walking through the pits, you've got access to Todd Oden. You've got access to Barry Lynn. You've got access to, you know, Ernie Smith, any of the guys. And they love the fact they put their blood, sweat, and tears in these cars. And they love the fact that you paid your hard-earned money to come out and look at their car, watch them race. And I often joke, if you ever leave a Southeast Gasser event without making a friend, you haven't done enough. You haven't met enough people, because it becomes a family. We've got people who travel just to see the people week to week, race to race. And most of the time they end up pulling their own camper, grilling out, you know, enjoying after the race with having burgers with some of the drivers and things of that nature. So our events are family oriented. You won't see any, what I've been raised to call, filth around the racetrack.
You're 100% right. And I remember when a little history for me on Southeast Gasser. So I went to some of the very early Southeast Gasser stuff like 10 years ago. So when I was, you know, in my teenage years, I was going with Dad to Southeast Gasser's event, and just being a kid and stuff like that, a lot of life going on, I didn't stay involved in it. And then in the past couple of years, we are family friends with Randy Edmonds, the race director for Southeast Gassers. And he approached me, and this is when we started doing our podcast on Shift Points, just talking about the events. And he said, and that was the first thing he told me. He said, SEGA is a family. And it's one of those things you kind of go, okay, all right, yeah, that sounds like a line. But, dude, it's not. And that's why I said whenever we were talking to Leslie, I'm so glad to hear him say SEGA is this family, because you guys really are. When you walk into the pits, even me had only been able to get to a couple in the past few years because of different circumstances. You know, hey, Jake, it's Jake with Shift Points. Hey, how's it going? My dad's name is Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you? And just like, this extremely welcoming group of people and just a ton of fun. You can tell everybody there wants to be there and they want to make themselves better. And a couple that I think really kind of, they're kind of the full epitome of it, I would say, is Dana and Diana Casto. I see the work that they've been putting in the off season, and man, they're just busting their butt. They're out there working. A lot of guys and gals are, working these full-time jobs. They're scraping together every penny, and they're putting into that race car because they love to be at these Southeast Gasser events, and they love to race, and they love the people that are there. And it just doesn't get any better than that.
It is certainly a great time at a Southeast Gassers Association race. And we've got a ton of people here in the comments section, such as Barry. I went to watch you guys race, and I talked to a lot of drivers, and I had a blast. And up and down the comment section, we're seeing those type of comments. In the comment section, take the time, let us know where you are going to catch Southeast Gassers Association drag racing this year in 2025. I'm Lee Kraft, aka the Monday Morning Racer, hosting right here on SEGA Live, along with Jake Freeman, the host of the Shift Points podcast, also presented by G-Force Transmission, and David Lancaster, the voice of SEGA, the man that delivers from the Tower of Power on a race weekend, giving you the call of the action on the track. Well, gentlemen, schedule aside, let's move forward. We're going to be seeing at these events 2 new categories earning points for a championship. They're not new categories to SEGA overall, but they are going to be running for a championship for the first time in their existence within the economy that is SEGA drag racing. And I want to begin with AFX. I love funny cars. If anybody knows and what else I do, I love funny cars. And my dad, who was the crew chief for Gene Cromer, they had an early funny car back in the day. And hey, we're going to have early funny cars, AFX, running for points.
What else could you ask for? Like, Southeast Gassers are giving you everything you want. You got straight axle cars. You've got these AFX cars with straight axles, and like you said, early funny cars. And I love the AFX class because those cars always make you stop and go, wait a minute. There's something just a little different about that. Like, and it really, like, they will immediately draw you in. And Rocky and all of the Platt family, if you come over and you start asking questions about an AFX car, they can give you so much history and detail from their family on this very short, very iconic and pivotal era in drag racing history in AFX. And I tell you, it's just, if you're looking for something to do when you go to South Georgia, head over to Rocky and just ask him about AFX. Give me a rundown, and he will give you so much detail. It's amazing.
What I love about AFX, guys, is it bridges the gap between the gasser and the flip top funny car. It really precedes the flip top funny car. Fans, keep in mind, these cars are not a gasser. They're an A gas car, factory experimental. That's the AFX part of it. They run on methanol. Most of them are injected. I mean, they can be carbureted, but most are methanol injected motors. They have an altered wheelbase. You're going to see wheelbases a little strange looking than a gasser, but it does predate the flip top funny car, and they are absolutely cool. And the one that excites me the most, that says he's, I've seen pictures of his build, is a guy named Gordon Rundle out of Speedway, Indiana. Gordon has raced with us in the past. He's a Mopar guy, and he's put together a beautiful car. There it is right there. Gordon standing alongside his car, just a beautiful car. He is a master fabricator. Being in that Indianapolis, Speedway, Indiana area, has access to a lot of things. Yeah, Colossus, what he's calling it. And that car really excites me to go up alongside that Moonshot car. That's going to be just 2 great looking cars in our AFX category. And I'm excited about it. I really, really am excited about this class.
It's going to be a good time, and more cars are coming. I think of Jeffrey Ferguson out of Mississippi. They've got the Nova, a beautiful red Nova with stacks out of it. They are bringing it, and there are certainly rumors, I think even out of Tennessee, of another one coming. And I'm sure as we continue to talk about it, we continue to hype it up, that more people are going to attempt to build for this class. And I've also got to say, as we segue into H-Gas, talking to Michael Brown in Indiana, again, his reputation in the Southeast Gas Association is fascinating. It's creeped all the way up to them Yankees. Nonetheless, he's like, look, we are now really, really excited about going back and running H-Gas because we are fighting for a championship. There is something to that in racing that, hey, I'm not just exhibition. I can say I am working towards a champion and I can be a champion.
And H-Gas is just the absolute perfect class for Mikey Brown, right? I mean, like, if there was one class that you could say if there's one person that fits into it best, it's Mikey Brown, right? I mean, he builds these wild creations, takes them on Hot Wheels Legends Tour and things like that. And to have a name that has such a following behind it coming into H-Gas, man, I don't think you could ask for more. And H-Gas, where AFX kind of gives you that kind of, it makes you stop and look like, oh, with the altered wheelbase, kind of makes it look a little different. H-Gas, you look at it and it's kind of, and I mean this with no disrespect, it's kind of the wild and wacky class, like in a very good way, right? So you just see cars that you wouldn't normally see kind of maybe up at A-Gas or B-Gas, and they fit, and they've got, a lot of them got inline engines and things like that. And it's just, what a cool class.
David, you there? Anything on H-Gas? You've been seeing them for a while.
I did. I was losing some of his audio, so I didn't know where to come in or not. H-Gas is a great class coming along. We talked about a little bit earlier about the money, and it gets expensive on these guys to fill these A-Gas cars. And like you mentioned before, working on these cars, these guys have normal jobs. They work on these cars all week and scrape and scrap and trying to put something together. And then they get in their motor homes and they drag these cars, 8 hours just so our fans can see them. But H-Gas, gives them a little bit of a break in the pocketbook somewhat. But anytime you want to go fast and anytime you put the word race in it, it's really how deep your pocketbook is. But the one that excites me in H-Gas has got to be Robert Frazier. Robert has had that Barracuda, that 65 Barracuda of his. He's had it in A-Gas trim. He's had it in AFX trim. He's run C-Gas before. He has been around since the very beginning, and he has really taken to this H-Gas category. And in the exhibitions in 2024 and 2023, we had some. He's been the most consistent car out there. Now, whether that will carry over to 2025 with all these new hitters coming in, we'll see. But he and his wife, Rita, have put that car through many different trims, as we should say, the way the car looks. And it continues to perform well. And Robert out of Bristol, Tennessee, has been a stalwart with the Southeast Gassers for years. And it would be great to see Robert get him a trophy. I know he worked so hard to do that. And that would be a special day right there.
It is certainly exciting right now in the Southeast Gassers Association of what is being added to in the championship portfolio. We're going to see these racers fight it out on the track, earning and scrapping for every point to be the first. And you can only be the first one time, the first H-Gas, the first AFX champion in Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. And I've got to say, you win a championship in SEGA drag racing, that is a championship of championships throughout the world of drag racing, as challenging as these cars are to drive. Speaking of champions, word is Daniel Haynes, the B-Gas champion from 2024, the Patriot, we're not going to see him that often in 2025. That class seems now wide open without a defender in the Patriot Racing. So I want to open up some championship picks discussion with that class in B-Gas. And Jacob, who do you think is the top odds of going and earning a championship in SEGA in B-Gas?
Man, I've thought about this all day and have not come up with a good answer, to be honest with you, because I literally, in my notes here, I have exactly what you said, B-Gas in all caps, wide open. I mean, this class is it could be anyone. I know last year, if I'm remembering right, Michael Oden won his first race in B-Gas last year, if I'm remembering this correctly, David. And so for me, the feel-good favorite would be so cool to see a young guy like Michael Oden come in here and just start winning races. I mean, his dad, Todd, he wins races all the time. They have it in their in their ability to do this and put together the package that they can to make that happen. And so for me, I don't know if it's a favorite, only because of kind of the younger side of things. But the feel good for me would be awesome to see the Oden family go and take that B-Gas championship.
Well, building on that, you kind of took one of my picks. I'll go with a three-headed triumvirate. I'll go with Michael Oden, who definitely possesses the skill. I think he has got to have a few breaks go his way.
Yep, of course.
No one will sleep on that young man on the light, on the tree. I mean, he consistently cuts 0-20s. Sometimes he's in the teens. I mean, a 21-year-old dropping the clutch on that G-force transmission, he lets it eat. But you also cannot forget the one-way technology power under the hood for him. And the other two guys are former world champions in the B-Gas category, and one of them is from the state of Alabama, and that's Ken Rainwater in the Renegade. He come along at the end of the year last year. This guy tests unmercifully. I mean, he just works and works and works and works. And he came up with something late in the year last year and turned that race car around and turned his season around a little bit to where he felt a lot better about 2025. And then you can't forget about the Rocky Top missile of Ted McKee, who won the 2023 World Championship in B-Gas and possesses that Gene Fulton power.
Yeah, for me, I'm almost scared to take picks because there's nobody that you want. Like, you want everybody to win. You're like, can everybody just win a championship because they're all such cool cars or cool people that, and so like you don't want to root against anybody in all these classes. And I don't know of a series that I watch that I feel that way toward, that I'm like, man, I just want to see a good race and whoever wins is great,
They're all
it's a
they're all great racers. Yep, great teams. But at the end, we're going to crown champions. We're going to crown winners. And I will say, I have to echo David's sentiments with Ken Rainwater. I, last year, with my Monday Morning Racer platform, put an emphasis on A-Gas with my coverage, but you still hear what's going on. And I felt like Ken Rainwater, with all his success in the past, last year was a year he probably doesn't really want to remember. Yep. And he, I think, out of all of them, may be the hungriest. I see those posts on social media. He's like, I got this part. We're putting this in. We're doing this. We're doing that. I think Ken is coming with some rain, thunder, and lightning for the competition in B-Gas. Well, let's take the time to now swing to one of those classes that, well, we're going to crown someone for the first time ever in Southeast Gassers Association. AFX. I'm just going to throw it out. I think the man that is the hungriest, and Rocky might not want me to say this with his ride out there, but I think it's Alan Platt.
If someone with the last name Platt doesn't take this first AFX championship, I will be truly shocked. And that, again, not a shot at anybody. Just like I said, they are so bought into it and have been doing it for so long now. I see that family probably taken this crown in the first year. But man, like we showed earlier, Gordon Rundle, Jeffrey Ferguson. I mean, that Jeffrey Ferguson has went 300 miles an hour at Bonneville. That guy knows what it takes to go fast, you know. So AFX is going to be another wide open class, but that Platt family, they might have it in the bag.
No, I can't go there with you. I'm going to go with the young shoe out of Georgia, and that's going to be Robbie Walden driving that moonshot car. That's my click to pick right there in AFX. He had some really good runs this past year, but I will tell you, Sam Gable, the owner of that car, he's been to Bonneville as well, and I know him and Jeffrey are good friends. It's gonna be a war, but I feel like Robbie Walden, with the Lamar Walden power under the hood right there, has got the biggest legitimate shot to make it because he's got a feel for the seat of that Mopar, and I think he's going to be the man to beat right there in AFX. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my gut.
All right, great picks. We are certainly going to be watching AFX intently and remember this episode and see how all wrong we were. And it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. See, we're probably going to get phone calls too. Why did you pick me? Why did you pick me? And we still got Leslie in the green room, so there's like some pressure on A-Gas to go ahead and pick him, apparently. And with that stated, A-Gas, right now, I think it's very tough to go against a pick that is the Chick Magnet and Leslie Horne. What he was able to accomplish with his driving and Brian Harris with his tuning, what a spectacular run halfway on to the end of the season with 5 straight, 6 total on the year. But if we look back at the first part of the year, there was a lot of parity. There was a lot of winners going back and forth. And we saw people step up that nearly nabbed a first win, such as Barry Lynn and his wagon. And then Ben Christopher, he was knocking on the door of wins. And then Chase Howard with some cannon firing behind him to pursue him on and down the drag strip to the point where he is certainly a contender. A-Gas, I think, might be wide open. But as Leslie mentioned, there's someone, as David mentioned, that has been doing this a while, that is getting his program back on track. And I think a Corvette that likes to streak silver is going to be the one to claim the championship in 2025, Kenneth Phillips.
Well, like you said, it's hard to root against Leslie, but let's not lose sight. There was 5 different winners in the first 5 races in A-Gas last year, flat out. And then Leslie went on this magical run, even though his equipment is wore out or old or whatever he poured us with earlier. So
he's got hand-me-down G-force transmissions, by the way, too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and Gene just pulled his engine off the back shelf there and stuck it in there, I'm sure. But it's really hard to root against him. But I'll tell y'all, when I was at Shadyside, I was able to come to the last race at Shadyside last year, and Ben Christopher fired up that line bullet the first time, and I was in the pits. I was a little ways away from him, and I heard that engine start, and just the sound of it completely just took my attention off what I was doing. I was either videoing or whatever it was, and just the sound, man, I just like looked over and was like, what is that? And so I think Ben Christopher is going to get a video like he talked about, like Leslie talked about earlier, with just the bumper out ahead of that Chick Magnet this year. And I think that would be really cool. Guys, we cannot downplay a guy like Jason Line. Jason Line is putting that engine together. This is a pro stock world champion that's interested in SEGA. First off, we don't need to downplay that. That's absolutely incredible. And on top of it, we can't downplay that knowledge that he has. And so I think Ben Christopher maybe gets that championship this year.
Well, there you go again, stealing my thunder, just like you did with the Michael Oden. Do you remember who finished
in the next category?
Do you remember who was the runner-up at the last 5 races of the year in A-Gas? The Happy Days of Ben Christopher.
That's right.
I feel like, though, I think Ben's got everything right in front of him to take this championship. But more importantly, A-gas is about harnessing this huge horsepower, getting that race car down the track consistently. And that is no easy task in any of the gas classes, but especially our fastest in A-gas, or as one of my friends said, the kings of the sport. Ben Christopher, one of the definite, I'd give him probably the best percentage to win. Chase Howard, going to be right there behind it. Kenneth Phillips, I think neck and neck with all three of those. Those three could win at any time. But there's something, my dark horse here tells me that Alan Pittman gets that Willis straightened out.
Oh man,
he was looking better.
Amazing.
You talk about a challenging season. I mean, Alan Pittman, a world champion in pro modified, builds some of the most electric, beautiful race cars that has ever been made,
including that one,
including this one. Mike Sward put that car together. Got the Gene Fulton 451 in it, but every one of us know that car handled so erratically this year. If they get the horsepower to the racetrack, he's definitely a guy that could be a dark horse and spoil some people's seasons and take home wins, possibly a championship.
And not to derail this real quick, but I will be honest. I mentioned him earlier, and I know we can just keep going down the list of racers, right? But Greg and Leah are coming, man. They have worked their butts off to get that Joker car lined out. And the fact that neither one of us picked him as a potential to win the championship, I think it probably pissed him off, to be honest with you. If he's watching this, Leslie said he gets fired up sometimes. He's probably fired up because they have just done so much work to improve that program. And you got to think they're driving from Wisconsin for every one of these events. That's a long way to come for these. They want it. They want it bad.
The dedication. Go ahead, David.
I think that they really fell in with the family. They love that atmosphere about it as well. Make no mistake, you're right. They're there to win their first gold cup.
Yep.
And I think once they build on that, the momentum from that could very easily take them all the way to a championship.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really think just with the work that they've done, when they get that first one, don't be surprised if he gets 5-6 in a row. I'm telling you, because he's coming.
Right. Well, you all are saying all that, and just to dig and hopefully twist, and we get better racing and more yakety yak. Greg, I don't think you can do it. Get the job done. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Chick Magnet still in the green room, and he calling you out. That chick bad, and that's no joke. But the Joker. Just saying. Let me put this photo up. Can we just appreciate this gasser? Wow.
It's immaculate. I just, every time I look at that car, I'm like, that should be at a car show. That don't need to be going down no drag strip. It's perfect. You know what I mean? But the fact that car is so perfect and goes down a drag strip, it don't get better.
And that's another thing.
Beautiful car.
That's another thing. You talk about our fans and the fan experience of getting into the pits. These cars with the flipped front ends, I mean, these cars are exposed to everyone. There's no secrets out there. But the cool thing about the Pittman car, if you go in the back and you look at the battery box, it's an old Standard Oil can that they got the box in, the battery in, and they got an old oil can up here in the front catching some excess. It's just really the attention to detail, and it really started for me when Dean Jonas built his car, the longtime fabricator at TM Race Cars with Tommy Mooney. When he built his race car that he still currently runs, the 66 Chevy, the Agent Orange, he really set the bar for fabrication. I mean, Dean took 3 years to build this car, and every detail was just immaculate. And now you're seeing other people step up to those standards. It's what makes the Southeast Gassers what it is.
Absolutely. We'll move on. H-Gas. Going to be crowning a champion this year. This might be one of the more challenging ones to pick, honestly. For one, name-wise. For one, familiarity, and then who's going to be able to pull together the entire season type of situation. David, you're going to have to help me out, but I'm pulling for. I don't know if we're going to see him all year, but I just like the car. The Corn Pop Studebaker. That thing's just cool. I think I'm going with him.
Well, that Studebaker is definitely a unique car, and that's what I love about H Gas is you got some unique cars and unique combinations that people are putting together. But Todd's got a great car, a 4-door Studebaker. That's it.
Uh-oh. David's having some issues. It happens. He might have froze on us. Let's hold on, folks.
You know, in
all right, David, if you can hear us, I'm going to drop you out. Come back in. Come right back in, man. Maybe we can get that connection worked back out. But, yes, Corn Pop. I'm going with Corn Pop, Jacob, and I'm going to bring a photo up here in just a few moments. It's such a neat ride out there in H-Gas, and H-Gas presents that. You get these unique rides that in the drag racing world, they were there. They were back there in the day, but they don't get the glory like the Willis or the Shoebox does.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I'll say it again here with all due respect. I called it the wild and wacky class only because, like you said, you're seeing bugs. You know, you're seeing Volkswagen bugs. You're seeing Studebakers. But one car that I just kind of holds a place in my heart because he was one of the first guys that I was able to kind of interview and talk to at a Southeast Gassers event is Scott Partee in that 60 Rambler. And I love that car, the American Woman car. It's a Rambler American. The name is perfect. The car is super nice. Scott was just, like I said, so welcoming to me during one of my first SEGA events, and so I want to see Scott, take that car and win a championship with it this year.
Dare we even talk about Superstock? I mean,
the only thing I want to talk about Superstock is we've got those front ends down, and it's going to completely change the look of that class. And I'll tell you, it's going to very quickly become a fan favorite, even more than it already is, because there's cars out there like mine. I've got a 64 Galaxy, and I know there's a couple 64 Galaxies that run in that class, and it's just you immediately hold to these cars because you look at it and say, I've got a car like that, or my uncle had a car like that, or my dad had a car like that. And it just, as far as that goes, that's what I really want to talk about in Superstock this year.
It's going to be fascinating. And I really do wonder if anybody has anything for Jerry Dean. His closest competition is moving on to another category, taking that Pontiac wagon up a bit in the ranks, if you will. So I've got to go with Jerry once again. I just don't think anybody's got anything for him.
That's going to be a tough man to knock off. I mean, he had a dominant season, and I think, some luck went his way, didn't go his way, but he could have gone undefeated and run the table. I mean, but there again, Randy Kiefer did a great job in that 56 Pontiac Chieftain. Got him a couple of wins late in the year, but what a dominant performance. And one like we've never seen in the Southeast Gassers to win that many races in one season in any class.
And we talk about, me and Randy talked about this last year as this was going on, because as a racer and somebody who loves racing, you hate to see a repeat winner, but you love to see someone dominate. If you're a real racer, you love to see somebody come out and just whoop up on people. And that's what he did last year. And no disrespect to anybody, but you think about all the parts and pieces and things that had to come together for him to win all but 2 races last year. And one of them, I think he runnered up in both of the ones that he didn't win. And one of them was a red light. It's unheard of in any drag racing, let alone here in Southeast Gassers.
And if I may add to that, one of his secret weapons, in my opinion, was Karen, his crew chief. I mean, she is very, very good at making calls. And Jerry will tell you, he makes the calls. She puts me in the beams. She tells me what to do. I follow what she does, and I try not to be late on a tree.
Yeah. Well, not many people can say they have a rocket scientist for their crew chief. So that's a
very
pretty good your back pocket.
Yeah.
Well, we now turn our attention to SEGAS. SEGAS is a class that we've got some attrition in, honestly. We've got some favorites. We got some stout competition that has already declared that they're not going to be at all of the races, and we should not expect them at the races that often in 2025. I think, obviously, Mr. Hall, a multi-time champion in the Southeast Gassers Association. SEGAS is one where I think it might be, well, a double trouble type of scenario for the competition, and that double X continues to add some more X's in the championship variety.
That very well could be the case.
First.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, go. You go first.
I was going to say that very easily could be the case. Todd Oden has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience in that car. I do know that they are making some serious changes underneath that car. They found some things, and that's scary too, that they found some things to even go faster. But you know how it is. You better be working in the shop, because you don't expect to put it in victory circle just by showing up at the race and working on it. The races are won in the shop. But just like you mentioned before with Dana and Diana Casto, they've been really thumping and burning some midnight oil up there in West Virginia. They're a team that when she drops the clutch on that G-force, I mean, they are contenders.
That's right.
But you can't, I mean, it's a wide open class, because who can get there? Tim Hall's not going to be at every race. If Josh Pruitt shows up at every race, you know, yes, Leslie, I know I'm a stud muffin, but, you know, it's okay. That's the one I was getting to in my click to pick. Yes, Jaron Purdue, with what he has going on in that car, and it's a multi-time champion car, I mean, that really could be the car to beat this year. But you've got so many, as I go down my list right here. I mean, you've got to be on your game in any of this, as we've talked about before. But you got Brad Wimberly. He had a great year this past year. Wasn't able to make all the races, still finished in the top 5 in points. Diana Casto, much improved. One guy that continues to be just a worker, a grinder, and someone who's actually going rounds now, you know, in a positive way, is Ernie Smith in the Saturday night special. Ernie will make his 100th start this year consecutively. That means he's been here since the very beginning. I interviewed him as the winner at Greer Dragway in 2016. And unfortunately, the battery on the camera ran out, and I got nothing from the interview. And he hasn't won a race since. But it doesn't bother him from showing up at every event and giving all he's got. He had a top 5. I think he finished 4th in points this past year. And then it comes down to other cars that run so well. I mean, the truck of Ben Shaw. You know, he's a professional musician. He can't make every race. Then you go looking at the troublemaker of Bill Wilson. If he makes every race with the Gene Fulton power he's got, it could be anybody's game. But I think Purdue has really got the percentages to win this championship this year.
For me, I'm going to kind of go with an underdog, and you mentioned him here earlier. He's coming up from Superstock. It's Randy Kiefer in that Pontiac, man. You were talking about races being won in the shop. I bet there's nobody that's done more work to their car in that class than Randy has. I mean, I know it was changing over stuff, but they're going to be, they're going to have everything as close to perfect as they possibly can get it. First off, that car is immaculate anyway. I love that car. It's neat. It's again, one of the guys I talked to really early on in SEGA, and so kind of holds a place in my heart there. But the other thing that I like about it is there's not a lot of guys running Pontiac power out there, and he's got Butler behind him. And I think we talked about all these engine builders earlier on. I think Butler is going to want their name in victory lane. They're going to want to see their name in victory circle and see that Pontiac up there. So I don't think he's going to have a lacking of horsepower to make it happen. And that's who I'm going to go with. It's kind of my underdog pick.
I like that. And I cannot wait to see that Pontiac station wagon with this a little bit more and selling it down there. That is going to be fun at Southeast Gases Association drag racing events to see. Well, I think we got it all. A, B, C, C stock, AFX, and now H gas. I think we got it all. And we're probably wrong.
We're probably wrong. The chances are we're wrong.
That's why they call it racing.
That's right.
Right. Get out there. You do not make decisions on paper, and there's a whole lot less for the paper with the Southeast Gases Association drag racing. It is first to the stripe. Whoever turns on that win light, the times, well, they really don't matter. Jam them gears and get to the line first. Maybe play a game here or there and make sure you're within the rules, and we're going to see some good action and a nostalgia revival that is the Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. Guys, cannot wait for this 2025 season to kick off. Hey, how about we do this again sometime?
Sounds good to me.
I'm in 100%.
All right, we'll have to do that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we aired this time Thursday at 5:30 Eastern time. It might be a different time, working out schedules and things of that nature. Like, it's about to ramp up for me traveling the country and covering motorsports, SEGA and beyond. And Jacob, he works with the race team. David, does things with dead people. He's got a lot going on. Yeah, it's all over.
Don't say things. That leaves the door wide open.
But it is all over. But we're looking forward to getting down to the point of South Georgia Motorsports Park. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget SGMP March. You have the 21st and the 22nd. There's a 2-day swap meet. All the categories we've talked about are going to be there. We're working on maybe some special guests. You've got big announcements to come on this event for you and viewership, if we may put it that way. There is so much tied into this event at South Georgia Motorsports Park. The Spring Nationals presented by Harbin's Mechanical Services. We don't have him on the show, but can we just brag a little bit? Man, Stephen Smith is such a good illustrator and digital design, man. Always knocking out the design on these posters.
Dude, why do you think I've got? We can't see the top one, but I've got 3 of them here on the wall and a banner. That Southeast Gasser Gear stuff, it never ceases to amaze me. He keeps coming up with these ideas and how good they look and how he's able to incorporate the cars. He's a natural talent.
Yeah, I love that. Let me bring it back up. The Barry Lynn one. He's got that peppermint twist on the straight axle there up front, and he turned it into the. I love it. Oh, I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
Well, I tell you what, guys, most of our fans don't know what all Stephen Smith does behind the scenes. He is a very big driving force in what we do. They see the posters, they see the T-shirts, they see the hats. I mean, he's been doing it for years, and one of our staunchest supporters and driving force behind the Southeast Gassers. And we I don't know where we'd be without him.
Absolutely. And folks, you can get SEGA gear at southeastgassersgear.com. Get those hats, get those T-shirts, get the swag so that when you come to the Nitro revival, not Nitro. Well, you know what? Speaking of that, I'm used to saying Nitro. I say it all the time. Quayne bought this little project, and I've got to say a little bit of Nitro tips in SEGA events might be fun. Leslie, you hear me just saying there's nothing quite like that little of Nitro. So
Yeah, I don't know what message he's sending back there now. But But it would be cool to see Quayne hang on to one of those things. You know, it's been a bucket list thing for him. And yeah, it wouldn't be bad to see him blow down the racetrack and give some fans that look in a little bit of an exhibition type thing.
It'd be fun.
Well,
It'd be fun.
honest, I think he's got some screws loose to crawl in that bomb, to be honest with you. So I'm glad to see it. I think it's super cool, but it's going to be something to see.
Well, I'll tell you what, when Southeast Gassers first got started, it's a running joke between Quayne and I now. There's people come up to him and said, it'll never work. It'll never work. What are you doing? You're crazy. And he said, well, this is what I'm going to do. Now it's a running joke. When I see Quayne in the pit, sometimes I look at him and just say, it'll never work. It'll never work. And we just both laugh our head off and count 85 cars, 96 cars. How many are legal and built that can show up, you know? So it's a lot for him to – don't tell Quayne Stott he can't do anything, because he'll set his mind to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I would absolutely never do that.
Well, to everyone out there in SEGA Nation, thank you for joining in and watching SEGA Live. Over there at the top is Jacob Freeman. You can catch him at Shift Points. Just search that, follow him on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. He has a great podcast where he does talk to Randy Edmonds, what's the official title?
Race director.
Race director, and gives a great recap of the events. And down below is Mr. David Lancaster. He is the voice of the Southeast Gassers Association. Great to have him on. And I am Lee Craft, aka the Monday Morning Racer. My involvement will have a more in-depth announcement later on and what's happening this year, but it is going to be a great 2025. Gentlemen, thank you for your time here on SEGA Live.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Folks, this has all been brought to you by QuickTime Performance. And I see, what are you waving for, Leslie? You want to say something? I tell you, Leslie, man, you know, just out there in the green room playing along.
That's how we say bye in the country.
Right. He's just waving. I don't know what's going on. We'll talk to him. Now he wants
put me back in. You know,
you're back in.
Yeah, I'm back in. I wanted to say one comment about Quayne. You was talking about, you know, that he can't do nothing. You don't never question what he can do. I will go on here and tell him that one thing he can't do is he can't outrun that chick magnet this year because he can't get his car to come out there on the track. So I don't know if he's got to get Tom or somebody there to get that thing put together for him. But I sure would like to welcome the opportunity for him to come out there and race with us again, and in a car that, you know, that's what I like to see. I'm just saying you can't do it, Quayne. So there you go. You can't do it. You just can't do it. That's all I'm gonna tell you. So get to work.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Quayne needs to get to work. The Joker cannot win a championship, and forget everyone else that we didn't mention as well. Folks, SEGA Live.
Tough picks.
Yeah, right.
Y'all got
Thank you. We will be back and continue to tell the story of SEGA Live. Brought to you by.
Thank you, everybody.